on the occasion of my father-in-law's 60th birthday. My brother-in-law demanded that the whole family give gifts to show filial devotion. I took out a brand new iPhone 16, and he said to me, "The class is too low. You're not fit to be the son-in-law of the old Lai family." The relatives laughed and asked what kind of gift would count as filial. My brother-in-law pulled out a rough stone with a window already cut into it and slapped it onto the table. A genuine 7-figure Imperial Green, if it weren't for my dad. Poor trash. Like you would have never seen something like this in your whole life. The relatives all looked awkward and said they really had never seen anything like it. They praised my brother-in-law for being capable, casually spending several million in one go. My brother-in-law lifted his neck higher than a giraffe, smugly lecturing everyone, telling them they had to dare to think and dare to act, or else they dead stay worthless, broke losers forever. That was when I stood up and walked over. You spent 3 years in Myanmar and only brought back one busted rock. A busted rock. The moment I said that, the relatives all froze. My brother-in-law's face twitched unnaturally, and he spat a thick wad of phlegm on the floor. Wang Wei, you're just some stinking construction worker, hauling bricks. Do you even know how to write the 2 words Jade? I smiled faintly. I've never seen Jade, but I know a little about rocks. Anyone with eyes could tell my brother-in-law wasn't showing this thing for its own sake. He just wanted to show off how rich he was. On the second day of the new year, when I accompanied my wife back to her parents' place, I bought my father-in-law and mother-in-law famous cigarettes and alcohol, plus high-end cosmetics. The moment my brother-in-law saw them, he started talking in that sarcastic tone. Again, technology these days really is amazing. If you don't look closely, fake stuff looks just like the real thing. If my wife hadn't been pulling at me nonstop, I'd have already taught him a lesson right then, since my brother-in-law insisted on stepping on my face just to elevate himself. Then there was no reason for me to keep treating him like family. If you don't have anything better to do, get the hell out of the way. This is the gift I'm giving my own father for his 60th birthday. How could it be fake? Keep running your mouth and don't blame me if I slap you. My brother-in-law couldn't even be bothered to pretend anymore. He rolled up his sleeves and stepped forward with a dark expression. I clenched my fists and stared at him coldly. Every single time. It was always like this. What should have been a happy family gathering. My brother-in-law always came up with some new bullshit. He ran a small company, yet carried himself with more arrogance than the richest man in the world. Even kick a stray dog by the roadside just to test the quality of his new shoes. A little vanity in a man is normal, but what kind of man puts himself above everyone else? By putting down his own family. I'd put up with him for a long damn time. Enough was enough. So you say it's worth 7 figures, and that makes it 7 figures. Who knows if you're just full of shit? Saying your stone is fake. If you've got the guts, prove it to me. Faced with my brother-in-law pressing up against my face, I didn't keep swallowing my anger this time. I dug a pit for him on the spot. A poor idiot with no life experience. Instead of worrying about my Imperial Green, why don't you think about how to make more money? Xiaomin's starting junior high next year. Have you even scraped together her tuition yet? Don't force the girl into refusing to acknowledge you as her father. The second he heard me openly question him, my brother-in-law's face turned livid from anger. Before he had even finished speaking, the expressions of all the relatives present changed. Who talks to people like that? I couldn't be bothered to waste more words with him. I raised my voice and said to everyone around us, whether it's a mule or a horse, let's bring it out and take a look. Today, I want to see whether this rock is really Imperial Green or just the bottom of a liquor bottle. If anyone's willing to witness this for us, you're welcome to join the bet too. The so-called 7-figure Imperial Green. My brother-in-law said it was real, and I insisted it was fake. Both sides held firm, and it was hard to tell who was right. Seeing me and my brother-in-law facing off without backing down an inch, the relatives all tried to persuade us to keep the peace. We were family. After all, there was no need to take things so seriously. My brother-in-law shoved away the relatives, trying to stop him. Nobody gets in my way. Today, he'll make this broke piece of shit kneel in public and apologize to me. If anyone says one more word, you're making an enemy of me. Li Yang. His arrogance was plain for all to see, but the relatives were angry without daring to speak. I looked at the different expressions on everyone's faces and didn't say much. I just gave a cold laugh and looked at my brother-in-law. I bet 100,000 that your Imperial Green is fake. What do you say? He'll choose the spots where we cut 2 openings. If Terry's green inside, the money is yours. My brother-in-law lifted a hand and brushed back his thinning hair, then snorted coldly. Ha! Before you brag, at least weigh your own worth first. You haul bricks 365 days a year, and the little money you make isn't enough for one of my drinking sessions. 100,000. A poor loser pretending to be rich. Even if I took apart every cheap bone in your body, you still couldn't scrape that together. That was exactly the line I'd been waiting for. So I immediately turned it back on him. I've got 100,000. Just tell me whether you dare to bet. If the Imperial Green is real, the 100,000 is yours. If it's fake, you only need to pay me 50,000. A crafty smile flashed in my brother-in-law's eyes. Sure, you insisted on asking to die, so don't try to dodge the debt later. The other relatives looked so shocked. Their jaws were practically on the floor because they all knew my brother-in-law had been doing business in Southeast Asia for the past few years and had quite a bit of money. With his wealth and his channels, pulling out a rough stone with good texture and translucency wasn't all that strange. Betting him on whether Imperial Green was real or not. Wasn't I just looking for trouble, crawling all over the ground? But I still walked over calmly. Wait. However, just as I reached out my hand, my brother-in-law stopped me. I let out a displeased cold snort. What now? Where's your money? You think you can evaluate my Imperial Green without putting out a single cent? What kind of daydream are you having? My brother-in-law looked at me with a face full of contempt. I said I'd come in a hurry and hadn't brought cash. Then pulled out my phone and showed him the balance in my bank account. It was already 2026. Mobile payment was so convenient, unless someone was trying to show off. Who the hell carried 100,000 in cash on them? TSK, TSK, TSK. The bricks you've hauled this year could probably circle the equator several times. Huh, you spend the whole year working like a beast of burden and only make 100,000. Wow, what a huge sum. I'd be ashamed for you. My brother-in-law looked at my bank balance, sneered, and turned his head away in disdain. My face stayed calm, my heartbeat steady. I already knew he'd never miss even a single chance to show off. Be careful with your hands. If you chip it or bump it, you can't afford to pay for it. With a fake smile, my brother-in-law gestured that I could finally touch the stone. I took the white gloves my father-in-law handed me, put them on, and touched it lightly. All the relatives present stared intensely at the stone in my hands. My brother-in-law puffed out his beer belly confidently and waved at everyone. A windfall from heaven today. Later, he'll hand out a 1,000 yuan red envelope to every single person here. My hand twitched involuntarily. 3 minutes passed, and I casually pointed at a spot. The special machine ground away the hard outer shell of the stone and revealed a patch of green, greener than Wu Dalang's cuckold hat. I lost. This is what happens when you don't honestly stay in your place as a poor loser and just have to jump out and embarrass yourself. My brother-in-law laughed triumphantly. I didn't say anything. I transferred him 50,000 with a single motion. Li Yang, your brother-in-law drank too much and was joking. Don't take it seriously, okay? In the blink of an eye, 50,000 had gone down the drain. My wife, who had always been frugal, looked pained. Her face flushed red, and she lowered herself to plead with my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law's face darkened, and he barked harshly. A virtuous wife means fewer disasters for the husband. This is between men. What are you, a woman, sticking your nose in for? We agreed on 50,000, not 1 cent less. My brother-in-law had never once put me and my wife in his eyes. Had never called me brother-in-law, even once. He seemed to have forgotten that if I hadn't taken out all our family savings back then to help him pay off his gambling debts, his legs would have already been broken. How could he possibly have had the chance to stand here now, barking orders at me? Wife, don't worry. A real man keeps his word. A promise is a promise. A bet is a bet. At worst, he'll just start over from scratch. I patted my wife's hand in comfort. Sigh. My wife let out a soft sigh and stepped back. She knew I usually didn't get angry, but once I did, it wasn't ordinary, and she didn't want to embarrass me in public. Keep going. I turned the stone over and opened a second cut. I still lost. Very soon, the full 100,000 in my card had all been transferred into my brother-in-law's account. Wang! Wei! This is hilarious. See, even money has human nature. It likes running toward the bigger pile. Don't take it too hard. The construction sites are paying triple wages these next few days. Work harder, and you definitely won't starve. My brother-in-law was flushed with success, laughing so hard the fat on his belly was shaking. He lifted his leg and was about to leave. Wait, I reached out and stopped him. What? Not done playing yet? I nodded. My brother-in-law rolled his eyes. One cut, 50,000. Even if the Jade Emperor himself came down, that's the price. No credit. I smiled. No credit. The car I just bought cost 150,000. Husband, Xiaomin's school is far away. In weather this cold, she can't do without a car for rides. Before my brother-in-law could even speak, my wife panicked. She grabbed my sleeve in terror and tried to persuade me to stop. I already said, men are talking. Women, keep quiet. No manners at all. If it were me, I'd beat you 8 times a day. Husband, a small gamble is fun, but a big gamble ruins your life. If you lose the car, too, how are we supposed to explain that to Xiaomin? My wife didn't dare confront him directly, so she turned to me and begged desperately. I didn't listen to my wife's advice. I threw the car key straight onto the table. 150,000. Open 3 more cuts. Wang, Wei, these little games are boring. If you want to play, let's play big. Seeing that ID added more money, my brother-in-law lit up and proposed a new way to play, baring his big yellow teeth. My face didn't change. How do you want to play? My brother-in-law rubbed his fingers together in excitement. It's boring, always playing with one rock. How about we switch it up? There are plenty of stones here. Pick any one. As long as what you pick cuts out better material than what I pick, you win. If you lose, you give me 50,000. If I lose, I give you 100,000. Don't say I didn't give you an advantage. I knew what he wanted. He wanted to use this carefully selected busted rock to win all the money I had left in my hands. Very good. This was exactly the moment I'd been waiting for. Fine, I agreed, without even furrowing my brow. Oh, my God. Seeing my brother-in-law that I and were playing bigger and bigger, the relatives all cried out in alarm, trying to make us stop. We were family. There was no need to go this far. My wife's legs were going weak. She reached out and scratched at my face. Wang, Wei, are you insane? Do you really have to lose every last bit of the family savings before you're satisfied? Li Yang spends all day buried in stone piles. This is his business. You're just a brick hauler. Why are you trying to compete with him? I knew she looked like she was angry at me on the surface, but really she was worried about me and trying to stop me from acting on a moment of emotion. After all, my brother-in-law had plenty of money. A few 100,000 was just pocket change to him. But for my family, that was the full sum of all our savings over many years. I could only win. I couldn't afford to lose. I told you already, when men are handling things, women keep quiet. It's just a few material possessions. You're acting like it's your life on the line with a narrow view like that. No wonder you'll stay poor your whole life. My brother-in-law shoved my wife away impatiently, all but trying to make me keep playing. Terrified, I'd back out. That's right, sister. A good woman should stand obediently behind her man. Listen more, watch more, talk less. You've worked hard all year. Don't make trouble now. Let the men have some fun. At that moment, my brother-in-law's wife came over and impatiently scolded my wife. Li Yang, I make the decisions in this family. Let's keep going. A cold smile curved at my lips. I didn't say another word. Out of the neatly arranged stones on the ground, I casually picked one. Very soon, the stone was cut open. It was pitch black inside, not the tiniest trace of green. Meanwhile, my brother-in-law pulled out some nearly worthless hydrous jade, and by sheer luck, won the first round. What a pity. You don't have the fate to get rich, but you've definitely gone mad wanting to get rich. My brother-in-law clutched his chest dramatically and sighed. but there was no hiding the smug grin at the corners of his mouth. The relatives all held their breath and stared wide, waiting for me to choose the second stone. With the first cut, 50,000 was already gone. If the second cut missed, too, then that would round it out to a full 100,000. And everyone knew that 100,000 was my entire year's wages. I didn't hesitate much. I picked the second stone very quickly. No one knew how much time passed before the cutting machine finally stopped. The moment the lid was opened, every person there sucked in a huge breath, jaws nearly hitting the ground. There was only a tiny bit of green inside, no bigger than a fingernail, but it gleamed with a terrifying brilliance. Even someone who knew nothing about Jade could imagine how dazzling it would be if cut into a ring face. I won! Not only did I win back the 50,000 ID just lost, I made another 50,000 on top of it. My brother-in-law stared at the slice in his hand with no hint of green in it, his expression dark and gloomy. I patted my chest in fake relief. Thank God! Good thing the God of Wealth decided to help the poor this time. Shall we continue? Of course! My brother-in-law spat viciously on the ground before transferring back the 100,000 that hadn't even warmed up in his account yet. Then we continued picking stones, but this time he wasn't nearly as calm as before. He carefully inspected over a dozen stones front and back for a good 10 minutes before finally making up his mind. Buzz. Thus, after the machine lid opened, there was green on the cut face of the stone. My brother-in-law picked, sure, but it was filled with dense spiderweb cracks. Forget pendants. You couldn't even get 3mm beads out of it. The stone I picked, meanwhile, was a proper spring with color, jade. He lost again without the slightest effort. I won another 100,000. Oh my, thank you to the God of Wealth for favoring me. My brother-in-law's face turned dark, blacker than the bottom of a scorched pot. He was exactly the sort of petty little man who never even bothered hiding his ugliness. When he won, his mouth nearly split from grinning. When he lost, he looked like someone had dug up his ancestors' graves. Well, still coming. If your funds are tight, we can stop here for today. I've got enough money to smash you to death. My brother-in-law let out a vicious grin and pulled out his phone, showing off his account balance to everyone around us. Again! This round, both stones looked bad. Their quality was about the same, but mine had the larger amount, so it won on volume. My brother-in-law's face turned a little pale. Even if you stepped in dog shit, your dumb luck should have run out by now. Again! Full of resentment and unwillingness, my brother-in-law threw another 100,000 cash at me, shouting the whole time. Then, in the next round, I pulled out a purple jade, while the hydrous jade he struggled so hard to get was worth maybe 100 yuan at best. My brother-in-law's brows furrowed so tightly they could crush a fly. You bastard! Did you set me up? How can you pull good material every single time? I sneered and pointed at my eyes. What? If you're blind, that means everyone else has to be blind too. My brother-in-law's face flushed red. He smacked his fat belly hard and said, a little sparrow still thinks it can scare a hawk. I refuse to believe you'll get material again in the next round. I let out a cold laugh. Everyone's stomachs are growling already. So, let's stop dragging this out. How about we settle it all in one round? My brother-in-law clearly hadn't expected me to have such guts. The veins in his forehead bulged, and he hesitated for several seconds without speaking. I immediately added more fuel to the fire. What? Got scared out of your wits? Then let's leave it here for today and play again another time. Who the fuck is scared? You, poor bastard. Who the hell are you mocking? This little bit of money isn't even in my eyes. All in! My brother-in-law spat, then threw over the full 200,000 cash in front of him. At the same time, we both started choosing our stones for the next round. My brother-in-law kept hesitating, picking up one stone and then another, shining a flashlight over the skins again and again. I just lightly nudged a stone with my toe and said casually, this one will do. The cutting machine stopped. We both opened ours. The relatives watching all froze. This time, my brother-in-law got pretty lucky and pulled out bracelet material worth over 10,000. As for me, I hit Again, a proper Imperial Green. My brother-in-law's eyeballs practically jumped out of their sockets. Impossible. That's absolutely impossible. How could you cut Imperial Green? I smiled as I clapped my hands. Maybe my dumb luck still isn't done yet. Looks like I'm destined to get rich. As I spoke, I swept all 200,000 cash in front of my brother-in-law toward myself. In just 2 hours, his 400,000 cash had all changed owners. Before my eyes was my brother-in-law's scorched pot face. But that wasn't the end yet. While he was still fully in the heat of it, I added, "How about we stop here for today? Leave you enough for the ride home." "Who the hell are you looking down on? I don't say stop." So, nobody stops. My brother-in-law shot up like a cat with its tail stepped on. Head clearly already lost his mind from losing. Anyone could see it. At this point, he had already lost all reason. Either he won back what Head lost, or Head go completely bankrupt. There was no way he was stopping otherwise. The moment he finished speaking, my brother-in-law slapped down a delivery order and roared, "This is a 5 million delivery order. The goods belong to whoever holds it, not to any person. If you've got the ability to win it, the whole shipment is yours." "No, husband, you can't keep playing." At that moment, his wife, who'd only been watching from the side until now, rushed over. "This shipment's already been pre-sold, and we still owe the bank loan. If you lose all this, too, the company's entire cash chain will break." Grinding her teeth, my brother-in-law's wife shook his shoulders hard, trying to wake him up out of the frenzy he was in. But nobody talks a gambler out of a bet any more than they talk a John out of a whore. She was doomed to fail. "You stupid bitch! Get the fuck out of the way! Stop ruining my luck!" My brother-in-law shoved his wife to the ground impatiently, then kicked her a few more times for good measure. I stood across the river, watching the fire, full of schadenfreude. What's this supposed to mean? When my wife tried to stop me, "You said women should stay out of men's business. So, what are you doing now? Trying to turn the world upside down? Or does Li Yang not count as a man at all? Wang Wei, is this how you act as someone's brother-in-law? You've gone way too far. Your heart is completely rotten." My brother-in-law's wife was still sitting on the ground, not even bothering to get back up before she shot back at me. I couldn't be bothered wasting words on her while handling serious business. I simply turned and asked my brother-in-law for a clear answer. "Li Yang, just say it straight. Are we still playing today or not? Being scared of losing isn't anything shameful. We're family. Nobody's going to laugh at you." Li Yang, who was used to putting down everyone around him, couldn't stand that at all. His face stretched longer than a donkey's, and he kicked his wife again for good measure. "Get the hell out of the way, you jinx! You disgusting thing!" Then he swung his hand hard. "Again!" I laughed inwardly. Very good. The fish had bitten the hook exactly as expected and refused to let go. Still, to prevent my brother-in-law from going back on his word later, I added a few details. "Let's make one thing clear first. If the jade we cut out is about the same quality, how do we decide the winner?" My brother-in-law sneered dismissively. "Judge it by market price. There are plenty of experts around." "Well, ask several and take the average." Good. That worked. Then the cutting machines got so busy, it looked like smoke would start coming out of them. We opened stone after stone. The goddess of luck stood on my side every single time. Later on, the quality of the stones I opened wasn't even that amazing anymore. But every single time, they were just a tiny bit better than my brother-in-law's. I refuse to believe this bullshit again. My brother-in-law's eyes were bloodshot, and his whole body covered in sweat. He raised a hand, ripped off his t-shirt, wiped his head a few times at random, and prepared to open the next stone. But I reached out and stopped him. "Li Yang, you're out of capital." The sun had already started setting. Split-up-in stones were scattered all over the ground. The 5 million delivery order had already changed owners. What? Only then did my brother-in-law seem to come back to himself after losing everything. His whole body shook, his face full of panic. "Forget it. If you're out of money, don't play anymore. Thanks for the New Year's gift package, little brother-in-law. Thanks to your great blessing, this brick-hauling laborer can finally achieve financial freedom and do nothing." Smiling brightly. I thanked Li Yang. We're not stopping. You think you can win my money and just walk away? Not that easy. My brother-in-law spread both arms angrily to block me, like a mad bull with red eyes. I shrugged helplessly. But you're out of money. How do you want to keep playing? Smack. My brother-in-law slapped a property deed right in front of me. I bought this house for $4 million. I shook my head. Real estate's in a slump right now. Housing prices are dropping. You've lived in this house for years already. At most, it's worth $3 million. My brother-in-law stomped his foot hard. $3 million is $3 million. That's still enough for a bunch more rounds. I waved a hand. Still can't do it. Hungry. Going to eat. I don't have time to waste on all this loose change with you. My brother-in-law wanted to blow up, but now the initiative was clearly in my hands. He was angry, but didn't dare let it out, so all he could do was hold it in. Then, what exactly do you want? I gave him a thin smile. Isn't it obvious? I put up however much, and you put up the same. One round decides everything. I've got $6 million in total right now. Do you? If you can't come up with it, don't say I didn't give you a chance. My brother-in-law's face turned pale and green, and his tone lost the confidence Edie had just moments ago. Sure. ID already won all his cash and delivery orders, which dealt him a serious blow. But even a broken ship still had 3 nails in it. His house and car were still intact. His company and connections still existed. If he worked hard for a few more years, it wasn't impossible for him to stage a comeback. But if he kept gambling now, he could sink deeper and deeper into the mud until there was no turning back. Big Boss only has this much courage. If you don't dare, then hurry and move. I'm hungry and waiting to go eat. Seeing that my brother-in-law didn't speak, and his whole face was full of hesitation, I added one more burst of fuel. Who the fuck said I don't dare? My brother-in-law gritted his teeth and stamped his foot hard. Then he turned and slapped both the car key and the property deed onto the table. I laughed coldly. Little brother-in-law, your house and car are both secondhand. By now, they were expensive when you bought them. Sure, but no matter how good something is, once it's been used a long time, it drops in value. I'll count them together as 5 million. That's still not enough. Li Yang, are you trying to die? If you lose the house, too, well, be sleeping under a bridge. Seeing that my brother-in-law had completely lost it, even his wife couldn't stay composed anymore. Ignoring the pain in her body, she jumped up to stop him. Li Yang, forget it. It's New Year. Therese, no need to play this big. The relatives all spoke up too, trying kindly to persuade him. Oh, now, all of you are breathing again. Where the hell were you when I was losing money just now? You think I'm stupid? You think I'll just watch 5 million go down the drain? My brother-in-law, blind from gambling losses, biting the hand that feeds him, and didn't appreciate anyone's good intentions at all, snapping at every single person equally. My limited edition Rolex. It's worth no less than 300,000. As he said that, my brother-in-law took off his watch and slapped it onto the table. Even the Hermes belt head just bought couldn't escape either. Unfortunately, it still wasn't enough. Wang Wei, leave people a way out when you can. Enough is enough. Are you really going to make your little brother-in-law put up his entire family fortune? Your close family by marriage. At that point, my father-in-law, who had been pretending to be dead up until now, finally jumped out to smooth things over. I didn't budge at all. I shook my head and said to him, a bet is a bet, and adults should be responsible for the choices they make. We're already long past the age of running to our parents and acting spoiled whenever something happens. I always knew my father-in-law favored the richer brother-in-law. My wife was looking at me with pity, too, shaking her head. They could hesitate. I couldn't, because Li Yang had never once treated me, his brother-in-law, as someone worth respecting. Every other word out of his mouth was construction site, brick hauler, this, and brick hauler that. Besides, his money was his business, but he never spent even a single cent on anybody else. So what exactly gave him the right to keep acting high and mighty all day, pointing fingers at everyone and barking out orders? The bet is the bet. Family is family. Separate matters no effect on each other. My brother-in-law, who wanted to crush me in one go, strongly agreed with that too. "What are you standing there for? Hurry up and take off your diamond ring and gold jewelry." My brother-in-law yanked his wife over, preparing to start stripping her for more collateral. His wife firmly refused. "Don't force me to slap you." At this point, after his net worth had already been cut in half, my brother-in-law clearly wouldn't hold back, not against his wife, and certainly not against anyone else. "Don't forget how I made my start. No one in this world who can beat me has been born yet." With bloodshot eyes, my brother-in-law made that aggressive guarantee. His wife looked hesitant. "You sure?" My brother-in-law crooked his mouth in a grin and muttered a few words into her ear. That tongue of his, trained through countless battles, really was good. He convinced her instantly. The gloomy look on his wife's face disappeared. She lifted her chin and willingly took off every single piece of jewelry she had on. Business people care about face most of all. Saying that the two of them wore half their net worth on their bodies every day wouldn't have been an exaggeration. So, now, every last bit of my brother-in-law's family fortune was piled on this otherwise ordinary table. Wang Wei! Now, my stake is bigger, no less than 8 million. It's your turn to gather the money. There it was. The dagger finally showed itself when the map ran out. My brother-in-law's eyes with too much white showing flashed with vicious light as he looked at me smugly. This was within reason, but still, beyond expectation. Things had started slipping a little beyond my control. I genuinely hadn't expected that my brother-in-law, already cornered at the end of the road, would suddenly jump up and turn the tables on me. Head switched from passive to active in one move. The situation flipped instantly. Just now, ID forced him to put up equal funds. Not only had he done it, head exceeded the requirement. Now the one backed into a dead end was me. If I couldn't make up the missing 2 million difference, that meant I was admitting defeat on my own. Not only would I lose my original capital, I'd have to obediently return the 5 million plus that ID won. Otherwise, from this point on, I'd be socially die within the whole family. My brother-in-law knew me very well. Makes sense. For an ordinary salaried guy, how much money could he possibly have? 2 million. Even if I worked like a beast and didn't eat or drink, it'd take me 20 full years to earn it. Wang Wei, how about we return everything to their original owners and just pretend today's bet never happened? My father-in-law was still standing on my brother-in-law's side. Looks like the iPhone 16 ID bought him had been wasted. Behind me came wave after wave of low sighs. It seemed like all the relatives present felt deeply regretful too. They all thought that, with the situation originally so favorable for me, ID ended up dying right before dawn. But what kind of real man gets crushed by a little difficulty like this? I live honestly and keep my name clean. I may not have much money, but my reputation is solid. I sent a single message in my college dorm group chat. My brothers didn't even ask what I needed the money for. They just started sending 10,000, 20,000 at a time. At middle age, still having a group of brothers this loyal and true, that alone made this life worth it. 1 million came together quickly, but even so, I was still missing 1 million. Wang Wei! Birds of a feather flock together. Haven't you ever heard that poor losers only have poor loser friends? You're too selfish, using your idiot friends' money to gamble against me. If you lose, you'll ruin their whole lives too, just because of this so-called brotherhood. Seeing that, even after all my efforts, I still hadn't gathered the full 8 million. My brother-in-law sneered while rolling the walnuts in his hand. I tugged my lips into a smile and said softly, "Thanks for your concern. Even if we're ants, we're army ants that can devour an elephant, even if it's eternal damnation. I'll still play to the end with you." I knew exactly what filthy calculation was running through his mind. Wasn't he just relying on having a bit of money to try and keep me under his heel forever? Even a clay figurine has some temper. His dream was about time to wake up. If I let him get what he wanted today, then I might as well never straighten my back again for the rest of my life. Huh. My brother-in-law looked up at the ceiling with his nostrils and laughed loudly. Wang Wei, today's my dad's 60th birthday. I don't want to make things too ugly. If you bow your head in public and apologize to me and then return all 6 million of mine, I can be the bigger man and let all this blow over. I let out a cold snort. No need, husband. How about we let it go? Liang already handed you a way down. We can afford to win, but we can't afford to lose. Poor people's pride isn't that important. For the sake of the child, stop now. Seeing how determined I was, refusing to give an inch, my wife turned pale and grabbed me urgently, trying to persuade me. But before I could answer, my brother-in-law spat a thick glob of phlegm hard onto the ground. I looked down on you. So, what? From the time I was little, the people I hated most were all you top students. What use are grades? Those dogshit teachers were all blind anyway. My wife was trembling all over, bending at the waist. Liang, you're right. Good grades don't equal success. I admit, you're better than us. Is that enough? Now, my brother-in-law looked arrogant. Were you blind when you got married? How'd you end up with a stupid coward like him? I stared at my brother-in-law coldly. If this weren't a society ruled by law, I would have wanted nothing more than to grind his bones to dust. Wang Wei, I've got 20,000 in spare cash. Take it and use it first. The people I can't stand most are these nasty little bastards who get arrogant the second they get lucky. I've got my year-end bonus that just came in. 100,000. I'll lend it to you. No rush paying it back. I don't have much. Only 50,000. I hate these illiterate show-offs, too. Before I could even speak, my brother-in-law had already triggered everyone's anger. They all started pulling out their phones and sending me money. 10,000 and 20,000 wasn't some massive amount, but when everyone adds fuel wood, the fire burns high. In less than 5 minutes, another full million had been gathered. Great kindness needs no thanks. I pulled myself together and shouted at my brother-in-law. I've got my full 8 million now. Can we start? If it's on, it's on. Today, in making sure you learn how many eyes the Horse King has. My brother-in-law, still not recovered from having stirred up everyone's anger, accepted the challenge through clenched teeth. ID already dug the pit. Now all that was left was to bury him in it. No more useless talk. I looked around and started selecting the stone I wanted. This time, my brother-in-law practically shoved the stone up into his eyeballs, inspecting it. It took him over an hour before he finally picked one. At long last, the machine stopped. He opened his with complete confidence. And, sure enough, it wasn't bad. The color was good. The texture and water were strong. And it could at least produce bracelet material worth close to 1 million. I won! My brother-in-law laughed wildly, his already long chin practically poking the ground. His wife looked just as smug. Wang Wei, poor people should stay honestly poor. Don't go dreaming about things that were never yours to begin with. Now you'll never be able to pay back your debts, even if you die. I gave a soft laugh. Aren't you popping the champagne a little early? Shouldn't you take a look at mine before you start talking? The second the words fell, I slowly opened the cut of my own stone. My brother-in-law and his wife followed the motion of my hand with fixed stares. The whole scene went completely silent. All the relatives held their breath too. A full-color purple jade, and mine was bracelet material too. But even if you thought with your toes, you'd know purple was more expensive. So, once again, I won. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. It was like all the bones had been sucked right out of my brother-in-law's body. He staggered and dropped to the floor, his face uglier than a zombie's. Oh my God, life's over. How are we supposed to go on now? My brother-in-law's wife, who'd gone from wealthy lady to dirt chicken in 1 second, couldn't handle the reality at all. She lunged over and started pounding on my brother-in-law like crazy. My brother-in-law suddenly shot up, grabbed me by the collar, and barked, "No, this isn't right. You must have colluded with them." I smiled and said, "My dear little brother-in-law, mouths are for talking, not for spewing shit." These stones were all laid out here by the boss, free to choose from. Why don't you explain exactly how this collusion worked? You're just a poor bastard hauling bricks. How could you keep winning if it wasn't all planned? Then you dyed the stones yourself. My brother-in-law had gone into full corner dog madness, redayed and crazed, more terrifying than the most dangerous patients in a mental hospital. I looked at my brother-in-law, who was on the verge of collapse because he couldn't accept reality, and shrugged indifferently. That's just how stone gambling has always been. One cut, and you're poor. One cut, and you're rich. One cut, and you're dressed in mourning cloth. That stone was sitting there. You didn't choose it. What exactly am I supposed to do about that? My brother-in-law would never have dreamed that from the very moment this bet began. He had no possible way to win. He was right about one thing. I knew next to nothing about Jade. In fact, before today, I'd never even heard of stone gambling. But the moment he humiliated me out loud, my blood surged. Rage hit my head, and my eyes suddenly changed. I found that I could clearly see the internal structure of every single stone, whether it was flashy outside and rotten inside, or plain and ordinary outside, but full of treasure within. I saw it all. My brother-in-law may have spent years immersed in the jade trade, but compared to my god eye, he had no game at all. While we were betting on stones earlier, I'd been deliberately controlling the outcome the whole time, luring the enemy deeper and deeper. My brother-in-law stood there, dumbfounded. Only after a long while did he stomp his foot and finally resign himself. Then he switched faces completely and came over with a broad smile. Brother-in-law, still young. My mouth's got no filter. It's all my fault. This dirty mouth of mine. What happened just now was just a joke. Please just let it go. Like a fart. Okay, brother-in-law. If Xiaomin knew you were bullying her dear little uncle like this, your wife would definitely be heartbroken. The second wife on the ground heard that and sprang up, instantly joining her husband in pestering me. Ha! I sneered. That skin of theirs, not even cannon fire could blast through it. Now, he remembers to call me brother-in-law. Too late. Before, every time he opened his mouth, he'd either call me by my name or directly call me a poor loser. Bringing up my daughter only made me angrier. When I used my own money to enroll my daughter in dance lessons, my brother-in-law publicly scolded her on the spot, saying she didn't know her place and that our family was poor. So, how dare she be vain? He pushed her so hard that she fell into severe depression and almost started thinking about ending her life. Back then, why didn't they think about the child being hurt? Li Yang, you said it yourself earlier. A real man keeps his word and accepts the result of the bet. I don't sell regret medicine here, trying to morally blackmail me. Sorry, but I don't talk about morality with animals. Are you poor to the point of going insane? I already told you, it was all a joke. How can you be this damn stupid? Hurry up and give all my money back. My brother-in-law shamelessly jumped up, sweeping the house deed and car keys back off the table. His wife ran over at top speed and stuffed all the jewelry back into her bra, still screeching non-stop. No conscience. So poor, you can't even stay alive. And now, the older sister and brother-in-law are scheming to rob the younger brother's family fortune. Wang Wei, you're a beast. Worse than an animal. Seeing their shameless performance, all the relatives could only shake their heads in speechless disbelief. Once someone reaches a certain level of cheapness, they become invincible. There really aren't many people that shameless, but I was already holding all the cards. So I simply stood there quietly and watched them perform. Because they were so focused on their act, they'd completely forgotten where we actually were. Stone gambling is a local specialty. There aren't that many places in China where you see it. This was a market in Myanmar, and the reason all of us had come here was entirely because of my brother-in-law. Under the excuse of celebrating my father-in-law's birthday, he organized every relative he could contact and brought them all out on a trip. Head made it sound better than a song. He said Head made several big business deals this year and earned a full 8 figures. So food and lodging were free, travel expenses reimbursed, and he wanted to take everyone abroad to broaden their horizons. The honest, simple relatives didn't think much of it. They assumed that now Head made enough money. His perspective had finally widened. I was the only one who never believed a word of it. The hotel's soundproofing was bad, just like I'd expected. I overheard the ugly intentions my brother-in-law and his wife were whispering to each other. They said business had been bad this year, and they hadn't hit their expected goals. And with so many fat sheep in the family, all stupid as hell, it was the perfect chance to slaughter them and make it a rich new year. They even mocked us, saying Poor losers like us didn't deserve wealth in the first place. According to their plan, they'd tricked all of us into coming to Myanmar. Then, under the excuse of wanting to experience the local customs, they brought all of us straight to a stone gambling market in Myanmar. Stone gambling is legal. At first, my brother-in-law planned to use the million-yuan ornament he was giving to my father-in-law to stir up everyone's greed, lure them into the trap of gambling stones, and then pocket the commission. But he was too greedy. Even the commission wasn't enough for him, so he personally stepped in and provoked everyone into betting directly against him. Originally, my brother-in-law thought victory was guaranteed. Too bad for him. I was the natural disaster sent down to be his bane. I was going to make him eat the consequences of his own actions and smash his own foot with the very stone head raised. No doubt about it. From the very beginning, my brother-in-law and his wife had planned to squeeze every drop of hard-earned money out of us relatives. Therese, no need to be polite with evil people that crazed. Boss, please maintain order. I couldn't be bothered dealing with my brother-in-law and his wife still rolling around and making a scene behind me, so I simply waved over the manager nearby. Businessmen care most about their reputation. When you play here, the only thing you need to worry about is money. Everything else gets handled by someone else for you. The manager waved his hand, and several strong men in black surrounded them. Not only was all the loot my brother-in-law's wife had hidden carefully dug back out, she even got felt up quite a bit in the process. Their mouths were covered, and they were thrown out. Wang Wei, you really hide your depth. That's amazing. After all these years, you finally helped us vent this anger. Watching my brother-in-law and his wife get tossed out like stray dogs, not only did the relatives not plead for them, they were all openly gloating. Instead, they had already lost everything, and barring any miracles, they'd probably never see us again for the rest of this life. But so what? Heaven's logic turns in cycles, and retribution never misses. What they offended wasn't just me. It was every single person present. What's more, ID recorded the private conversation between the two of them and told everyone what ID heard. Otherwise, I definitely wouldn't have been the only one dragged into the game in the end. For a pair like my brother-in-law and his wife, people whose lives got a tiny bit better and then immediately started stepping on the faces of their relatives to elevate themselves, even trying to strip all the relatives bare and ruin them completely. The outcome they got was already me being lowabiting and not pursuing the matter too far. Professional matters should be left to professionals. My brother-in-law's house and car were quickly appraised at a discount and transferred into my account. Everyone who sees it gets a share. Great fortune, great profit. I don't have the habit of eating alone. I took out all the money and distributed it among the relatives according to proportion. Everyone was very satisfied, except my father-in-law. But whether he accepted it or not, all he could do was swallow it. Looking at the blue sky above, I laughed out loud. From today on, those two disgusting idiots were finally gone from my life forever. Thank God heaven still has eyes.